Okay, we are continuing the 2017 old released STAAR test. We are on question number 11. We can solve this question both by hand and in the calculator. Let's do it by hand first. 8x minus 3 parentheses 2x minus 4 close parentheses equals 3x minus 6. We have parentheses, so we know that we're going to have to distribute. Negative 3, and it's important that you call it a negative 3. It's not just a positive 3. Negative 3 times 2 gives us negative 6x. Negative 3 times negative 4 gives us a positive 12 equals. We're doing the same thing here. We distribute. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. We need to bring down the 8x as well, since we didn't do anything with that. Now we want to get all of our numbers on the same, all of our variables on the same side. Before we do that, we have to combine like terms. We have an 8x minus 6x would leave us with 2x plus 12. We're bringing everything else down. 3x minus 18. You can bring the x either direction. I can either bring that one to the right or this one to the left. I'm going to move the 2x so that I'm not left with a negative when I finish subtracting. To get rid of a positive 2x, you go minus 2x minus 2x. Now we have 12 equals 3 minus 2 is 1x minus 18. We need to get rid of the 18. Right now it's subtracting from our x, so we're going to add plus 18 plus 18. X is equal to 30. There's our answer. You are also aware that you can do it in the calculator, and you would simply press Menu, Algebra, which is 3 on the calculator, and then Numerical Solve, which is 1 on the calculator. Menu 3, 1, then you would type it in exactly as it is, 8 minus 3, parentheses, dot, 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 all the way through, and what do we have to put at the end of it? Comma x. Must make sure you put comma x, and then the final parentheses that the calculator put in there for the numerical solve, and then hit enter, and it would tell you x is equal to 30. Alright, problem number 12. Usually these graph questions are relatively simple, but this one was a hard one for most students on STAAR. Part of the trick was that in each graph it says that this is just for the numbers over 40, and some students tried to work in what it would be before 40. So it's saying you earn $320 per week for working 40 hours plus 12 hours per week over 40 hours. So we are not worrying about this pre-40 slope-wise. We're just saying this is how much you start out with. So we're at 320. That's our starting point. Down here it's starting at 0. Well, we've already worked 40 hours, so we shouldn't be starting at 0. So H is out, and so is J. It's starting at the wrong time. We've already worked 40 hours. All right, so now continuing. The second thing that makes this a more challenging question is it gives us the slope, $12 per hour, so that'd be 12 over 1, but our graph doesn't have any nice, easy, obvious lattice points that would give us up 12 over 1. So we need to convert it a little bit. How far is it going over? It's going over 20. Well, if it's 12 per hour and we go 20, what would that give us? 12 times 20. How much money should we be going up? 240. So we should be going up 240 if we're going over 20. Well, from this point to this point, is that going up 240? No. So F is not correct. We're looking down here at G. From this point all the way up to here, is that going up about 240? Yes. So it's up 240. About and over 20. G would be the answer. Let's move on. Here we have a problem that looks challenging but is not really. They are asking us to combine the inventory, so we're simply adding these two polynomials. We know we can only combine like terms. There's a g squared and there's a g squared, so that would be 3 plus a half is 3.5 g squared. There is no other regular g terms, so it's just minus 4/5 g, and then we have a regular 7/2 plus 1/4. Now, some of you may not be good at adding fractions. You have your calculator. You could type that into your calculator and get the answer, but we know that would be 15/4 because we need a common denominator, so we'd multiply by 2. You should know that. Now, how do we turn 3 1/2 into a mixed fraction? Well, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7/2, so that should be 7/2. Which of these answers is correct? A. All right. Let's move on. Here we have a very easy, one of the easiest questions. It's asking for the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So the answer is 4. It is always a shame when students pick some of these random numbers and try and bubble in a -6 or a 3. Those numbers did not affect us. The question was asking for y-intercept, which is this point over here. Next, we have an exponential function. Exponential functions are very easy as long as you know the formula. Y equals ab to the x power. A is our starting value or initial value, and b is the growth or decay rate. So let's look at these. It's saying that there are initially 4, so the 4 should be in this first part, y equals 4. And how much does it say that it is growing by? Well, it says that it doubles, so that means we would have a 2 in the parentheses. So which one matches? B. All right, moving on to our next question, a fairly standard, simple question. On this problem, we have it in standard form, ax plus by equals c. We need to move it into slope-intercept form so we can figure out what the slope is. First, we're going to get rid of the 5x by doing the opposite, minus 5x minus 5x. Negative 12y is equal to negative 5x plus 24. We want to get the y on its own. Right now it's negative 12 times y, so we're going to do the inverse again. This time it's dividing by negative 12 to get rid of multiplication. Divide by negative 12. Y is equal to, we have negative 5 divided by negative 12, which is 5/12x. And then 24 divided by negative 12 is negative 2. For slope, we care about m, the number in front of the x. Y is equal to mx plus b, so it's 5/12j. Okay, on the next question, we have a trinomial, and we're supposed to identify the binomial pairs that gives us the equivalent. We can do it one of two ways. We could either do it by hand factoring, 6x squared plus 13x plus 5. So we could do our x puzzle, a times c, 6 times 5 would give us 30, 13, the b term goes on bottom, list our factors, 10 and 3, 6 and 5, 1 and 30. 10 and 3 would obviously add to give us 30 in addition to multiplying to give us, add to give us 13 in addition to multiplying to give us 30. So that's the middle term that we break up. The first term stays like it is, 6x squared. The middle term is broken up into the two terms we identified, 10x plus 3x, and then the last term stays like it is. We're going to factor by grouping. So this first we can divide by 2, and they both have an x, so we can divide by an x. We're left with 3x plus 5. The second one, 3x and 5, nothing can be factored out of that besides a 1, so we have a plus 1, and we're left with 3x plus 5. We see the repeating binomial. 3x plus 5 is one of them, and then our leftovers becomes the other binomial, 2x plus 1. And we see the correct answer would be C. the order of the binomials would not matter. We could also have taken our answer choices. If you're not good at factoring, we could have taken our answer choices and then distributed to get the original problem. I'll do that on the correct answer so we aren't going through the wrong ones. If it were the real STAAR, you would start at the first one and work your way through. So here we're going to distribute 2x times 3x, 6x squared. 2x times 5 is 10x. 1 times 3x is 3x. And then 1 times 5 is 5. Then we combine our like terms, 10x and 3x, 6x squared plus 13x plus 5, which is our original question. All right, on the next one, we are given a word problem. We would set up our two equations. So we see we have 6 green routes, so we've got 6G, 5 blue, and that would be 52 miles. Then we see we have 12 green and 13 blue and 119 miles. The easiest method would be to use your calculator and hit Menu, Algebra, which is the third choice, and Solve System, which is the second. Type them in, and it would give you that your answer is G. However, if you were going to do it by hand, we could solve it by elimination. I'm going to show that over here. 6G plus 5B equals 52. 12G plus 13B equals 119. We would need to multiply this top one by -2 in order to get something that would cancel. -2 times 6G is -12G. -2 times 5 would be -10B. And -2 times 52 would give us -104. Now we combine vertically. The +12 and the -12G cancel. We have 3B equals 15. Divide by 3, divide by 3. B is equal to 5. Then, since that's B, blue, but it's asking for green, we would plug that back in to one of the equations. 12G plus 13B equals 119. We are plugging in the 5 for the B, so it's 12G plus 13 times 5 equals 119. 65 is 13 times 5, 12G plus equals 119. Then we need to do the inverse operation, the opposite, -65 minus 65. 12G is equal to 54 divided by 12 divided by 12. G is equal to 4.5, which is where we got G. All right, this next question is one of the more challenging questions, not because the vocabulary is confusing. It's talking about correlation. We know that if it looks like this, bunched up, it is strongly correlated. If it's spread out, more like that, it is weakly correlated. We know that since this is moving in the up direction, that would be positive, whereas if it was moving downwards like this, it would be in the negative direction. The reason that this one is somewhat challenging is because if you were to try and plot these points, it would not be entirely clear which way it's going. The only thing would be clear is that it is not strong, so we could eliminate those two. But whether it is weak or positive would be hard. You would need technology in order to do that, and indeed that's what this TEAK is testing. So the buttons on our calculator would be to go to the home screen, and we would click the data entry, which would be down here, which would give us a table. Just like they have a table here, we would want to be entering our numbers. We're going to create a scatter plot after we type in the data. So first we would type in all of this data. Obviously ours would be going vertically, even though theirs is going horizontally. We would type in all the data, and then we would push these buttons, Control, Doc, 5. We would add axis labels at the top and the side, at the left side and the right side and the bottom for both axes. We would then plot a line by going Menu, 4, 6, 1. Then we would hit Control, Doc, 1. And then finally, Menu, 6, 1, 3, select, column, names, and enter. It will give you a list of numbers, and the R is the correlation coefficient. That's the one you'd be looking for. In this case, it would be a weak correlation. That is a process that would just take practice, lots of different buttons to be pushing. Alright, on this next one we have exponents, so we would reconsult our formula chart. We see that they are multiplying by each other, which means we're going to be adding the exponents. So we're going to add 13 and negative 17. So that would give us x to the negative 14. But what would we type in our griddable? Because we're supposed to grid this on the bubble document. Well, it's asking for n, and what is n? N is the exponent. So what did we identify as the exponent? Negative 14. So the answer on this one is negative 14. We will continue the next set of problems in the next video.